Okay, so we'll call to order the East Norwalk Neighborhood Association Community Meeting for the month of January 2026. And I believe we are recording right now. A couple of quick announcements. For anyone who hasn't either driven there or seen the emails or been on any of the social media or regular media, you know that there's been significant what were the planned significant interchanges or lane changes and traffic pattern at Gregory and Cemetery Street. We are going to talk a little bit about that tonight with our guests. And as we need to get more information on that, we certainly will do that. And I can share some information as well at the end of the meeting regarding some community feedback that we've received and community comments that are going into City Hall regarding a request to modify this again. Also, I wanted to mention, this is a follow-up from last month's meeting, that one of the appointment vacancies for the City of Norwalk boards and commissions and agencies does include an empty seat right now for appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And as you know, we continue to urge folks who live in the East Norwalk area to, if they have an interest in this and they can volunteer, to submit your names either through us or directly into City Hall, into the Mayor's Department to ask for consideration on that. There's more information on that on the city website. And if you'd like to discuss it with me about what's entailed with that, I'm happy to talk offline with you as well. But one of the areas that we hope to get more representation in for East Norwalk proper are any of the land use commissions, and this is one of the big ones, as you know. In terms of public hearings and city meetings this week, we ask you to see the city website for the official meetings and the agendas. Speaking of P&Z, there is a P&Z commission meeting tomorrow night. I will be following that closely because there are some modifications that the P&Z director and staff are recommending to make further amendments to the zoning changes that have gone in over the past 2 years. Some of the changes seem to be significant and will absolutely impact development in East Norwalk in the next couple of years. And so I haven't read through them yet, but some of them actually look to whittle down some of the protections that we had put in there regarding density and height and public benefits. But I will watch that meeting and follow their minutes and then report back either via email or at our next meeting. Speaking of that, ENNA is still working closely with City Hall on the new mayor and her staff on improving all city communications coming out to residents. And then just another quick note to remind you that if you have an interest in our state legislative delegation, the League of Women Voters of Norwalk is hosting that team as their guest for a forum this Thursday night at 7 p.m. at City Hall. It will be live via Zoom as well. And Nancy on Norwalk will be coordinating that and also posting that session online if you're unable to make it or watch it on Zoom. Okay, and so that's it for the announcements. What I'd like to do is go ahead and introduce our guests for the evening. Many of you have been writing into ENNA and into the city and into our elected officials regarding what we call the Walk Bridge project, but as you know, there's many components to that, 3 or 4 of which directly impact, actually 5 of which directly impact East Norwalk proper. And we thought it was a good time, given the feedback that we're hearing, the questions that we're getting, to bring in the team. They're always very agreeable to coming in and meeting with us. They'd like to hold everything to an hour, and I'll state up front that we'll try to do that. They've been working all day, of course, and we can always have a follow-up meeting. They're very gracious about coming back. And if at the end of this meeting we haven't answered all your questions or concerns, we can certainly submit that to them, and they can either reply to us in writing, which they do, or they're happy to come back as our guests again. And without further ado, and actually, Stephanie, just remind me if you can, because I'll forget. I do want to come back to this slide if it's not a part of your presentation, just to orient folks on some portion of the work along East Avenue. And with that, I can go ahead and stop sharing, and we will have Stephanie Pelletier of the Walkbridge Project team introduce who is here with her tonight, and they can do their presentation, and we'll open it up for a Q&A.
Thank you, Diane. Good
You're
evening,
welcome, and
everyone.
Happy New Year.
Oh, yes. Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody. My name is Stephanie Pelletier. I am with the Walkbridge Public Information Team representing WSP and our client, the Connecticut Department of Transportation. We're joined tonight with our team, Roy McGlasson, Gus Mello with the Connecticut Department of Transportation as supervising engineer, Richard R.J. Lesso, who is also with the CTDOT District 5. He is our transportation engineer on the project. And Jeff Bird with WSP. He is our Assistant Vice President of Construction Management. So we're delighted to be able to be here. As everyone knows, and Diane pointed out, if I can share my screen, that would be great. We can get into the presentation. We do have multiple concurrent projects going on in East Norwalk, as well as the Walk Bridge in South Norwalk. But for the purposes of tonight's meeting, we're here to provide an update to the association on the projects in East Norwalk. And we'll kick it off with RJ, who's going to take us through our map here, just as a big overview of the projects going on in East Norwalk, and then we'll get right into the presentation. RJ, take it to you.
Hi, everybody. As Stephanie said, my name is RJ Lesso. I am the project engineer for the projects associated with the Walk Bridge program in East Norwalk. Happy New Year. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces and familiar names on this meeting again. So this is our project map. If you've been to any of our other project updates, you've seen this map. We have a lot of work going on in Norwalk and in East Norwalk especially. Let's jump into the projects and take a look at the work in East Norwalk. We'll go one by one, starting at the west side, Fort Point Street, Railroad Bridge and roadway realignment. So right now at Fort Point Street, we're working on the bridge abutments, what we call the substructure of the bridge. As you may remember, the bridge is being built offline or adjacent to the existing bridge. So we don't anticipate any major impacts to trains, vehicles, or pedestrians. This portion of the project is currently anticipated to complete in the summer of 2029. If we could go to the next slide, we'll talk about a project that's had a little bit more impact on traffic lately. That would be retaining wall 310, which is adjacent to the existing Fort Point Street Bridge on the north side there. You may have noticed that we're forming and pouring some of the architectural facing on the existing retaining wall. Currently, we're working on a permeation grouting operation in the street there, where grout is pumped into the soil to stabilize the existing soil under the west end of that retaining wall. As a result of that work, there have been some impacts to traffic. As you probably know, if you drive the area often, northbound passenger vehicles are currently being detoured westbound onto Van Zandt Street, and southbound vehicles are detoured westbound onto Reynolds Street to South Smith Street. The retaining wall work is expected to wrap up in the spring to summer of 2026.
All right. And pictures.
And we have some renderings. Again, if you've been on these update meetings before where we come and present to you, you've seen this before. So you see the existing roadway realignment and our new roadway realignment. The new bridge will be directly across from the existing South Smith Street. And again, I always say this is going to resemble more of a typical intersection, and it's going to clear up a lot of the sightline issues that exist at that intersection now, and hopefully facilitate the smoother flow of traffic. You'll see we'll be adding bike lanes over there, new sidewalks, etc. I believe we have a couple more renderings. Yeah, a couple more renderings of the existing condition. We don't have to stay here too long. I'm sure everyone's familiar with this existing condition. And then our final condition. Again, you'll see we'll have wider sidewalks that are ADA compliant, bike lane, and of course the realignment, like I said before. And then moving to the east, we have the Osborne Avenue bridge rehabilitation. Again, this is just a superstructure replacement, so we're using the existing substructure, erecting new steel on the existing substructure. We're really proud to have completed the north superstructure, as is seen in the picture here, and we were able to reopen that street to traffic. The south side work is expected to begin in early 2027, which will basically follow suit with what we did on the north side. We expect Osborne to be closed for a period of approximately 6 months, similar to what you saw on the north side, while we do that south side work. We expect this project to complete with the south side work around the summer of 2027, and we'll wrap up with resurfacing the street and rebuilding the sidewalks. And then moving east, we have a rendering. Yep, this is what our new street will look like.
Yeah.
You notice the vertical clearance is retained here at Osborne Avenue. And then again, moving east, we have our East Avenue Railroad Bridge. So if you drive through the area often, which I'm sure many of you do, you notice there's also a lot of work going on at East Ave. We're currently working to complete the north side of the bridge. We expect the steel to be erected sometime in March of this year. And then just like the Osborne Avenue Bridge, we'll do just about the same thing on the south half of the bridge once that's complete. So we expect the south half to be wrapped up around the winter of 2027. An upcoming impact to the community on East Ave will be when we erect the steel. That will be performed during a weekend closure of East Avenue. And we will certainly provide official notice to the community once those dates get a little bit closer. But it looks like it's going to be sometime in March of this year. And again, we have some photos and of the existing bridge and renderings of what the new condition will look like. And you see we have our bridge and we have our platform that will also go over the roadway as well. And this is a rendering that shows kind of a more holistic view of the station and the street. You see the driveway in this rendering. The driveway has been realigned, as you probably all know, and that signal has been commissioned over there.
Pedestrian crosswalks are in as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I cross the street over there often, and it's nice to have a protected movement for pedestrians.
And the first
Hey, Rich,
canopy steel just came in, huh?
It's Diane. And just before you actually leave those slides, it's hard to discern the depth perception there from the previous slide. Is what the community is seeing here now, does that include what we refer to the lowering of the roadway? And where does that actually start? Because the slide before, it seemed like it doesn't start at all, and then there's kind of a dip. Is what we're seeing on the roadway now, is that actually the lowered roadway, or that's still waiting to be done after all the digging that's already been done?
Yeah, right now we're in an interim stage, so the roadway has been slightly lowered, but we haven't done our final lowering of the roadway yet now. But yeah, it will be in this area. It's that dip as you get into East Ave, as you go over this crosswalk is kind of when the dip happens for our lowered roadway.
Okay, so it's not. It looks to be much more of a dramatic dip than the very gradual one that we were shown.
It's actually I discussed small there project manager program. It's actually a gradual dip. What you've seen is the interim lowering, which was actually we lowered the road by 10 inches. So basically, the lowering really starts at 4 point is really where we start lowering, and then it basically had the low point is underneath the bridge, and it starts coming back up and tapers to existing at Winfield. So right now, there's going to be an additional approximately 10 inches of lowering from where it is currently now to the final state.
Okay.
All right, moving on.
And then an update for our East Norwalk train station at the current north platform, or the New York bound platform, otherwise known. We have a lot of work happening. The contractor's building a soil nail retaining wall that's shown here in this top left photo, which will eventually support the kiss and ride area designed to facilitate passenger drop off. We'll show a rendering of that later. If you've been to the station recently, you would have seen the majority of our platform structural steel in place. As of last night, the contractor began erecting the canopy steel, and I think we're all proud to say that our station is actually starting to look like something that will become a train station now that we are starting to erect some of that canopy steel. So we do our best to keep the station open during construction. However, as you know, there are times when some of our work requires that the station be closed in the interest of public safety. We've had several weekend-long station closures to date, and we do anticipate there to be another weekend station closure in March of this year. And then we have the second 3-week station closure in late summer to early fall of this year. Of course, subject to change. Again, our public information team will provide an update in advance of all these closures as soon as we iron out the dates with our contractor. The north platform is currently forecast to be completed in late summer of this year. And then again, if you're noticing a theme here, we'll do the same thing on the south side of the station. We're going to do the same thing on the New Haven bound platform, which will include, again, building a temporary platform, demolishing the existing south platform, and building our new permanent south platform. And here's some of the renderings of the existing station. And this is what we're working. So this is the kiss and ride area that I was talking about earlier. I mean, this alone, this will prevent, you'll be able to drop off a passenger without ever having to go into reverse. This alone, forget everything else we're doing, is a major safety improvement at the station. There's a lot of foot traffic at that station. Preventing vehicles from having to go into reverse to drop off a passenger is a major safety improvement, especially during peak commute times.
All right.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Sure.
The kiss and ride, that's on the New Haven bound side, yeah?
New York bound.
Oh, it is on the New York bound side. Oh, that's terrific. Great, thanks.
And this is just another view of the final condition at the train station. All right. Moving on, East Avenue roadway improvements.
Yeah, so moving on to East Avenue. East Avenue roadway improvements is sort of a catch-all for all the work we're doing on East Avenue and some of the adjacent streets there. That work is happening under a variety of DOT-administered projects. As you probably already know, the roadway will be widened. You'll see new crosswalks and sidewalks. And then, of course, the Gregory Boulevard streetscape and drainage project, which I think we move into right after this slide. All this work is expected to last 3.5 years, completing sometime in the fall of 2028. And now moving into East Norwalk connectivity enhancements. So this is a streetscape project. It's officially known as the East Norwalk Connectivity Enhancements Project. Like a lot of the work on East Avenue, the project is designed by the city. Then the contract is administered and paid for by the Department of Transportation under District 5 construction, which is the unit that I work for in DMT. And of course, we're administering all the Walk Bridge program projects. This project is going to be starting up soon. That contract was awarded to the Grasso companies approximately a month ago. So the next step is that that contractor is going to be issued a notice to proceed in early February, which is how we officially commence the construction contract and authorize the contract to begin work under the project. So under this project, we'll be doing a lot of deep drainage work down Gregory Boulevard. We'll also be doing some full depth roadway reconstruction, sidewalk reconstruction, and we'll also be adding a dedicated bike lane on Route 136 under this project. And then we have some information about the drainage project on Gregory Boulevard, particularly the intersection of Gregory Boulevard and Cemetery Street. First, I want to say that I know that this is a sore spot for the community. Just to provide some background for those of you who may not know, and I'm certainly not an expert in this matter, but I am willing to communicate the facts as I know them. So the city and DOT worked to finalize the plans for this project, and under those plans, the island at Gregory Boulevard and Cemetery Street required reconstruction. Under that island is an existing box culvert where the East Avenue drainage flows underground, down Gregory Boulevard, and eventually into the culvert under the island into an existing opening in a box culvert. So DOT received a request from the city to review a revised design which proposed retaining the existing oak tree in that island. Unfortunately, due to a variety of technical factors, most notably the age and unknown condition of the existing box culvert, for which there are conflicting and in some cases non-existent records about the existing culvert. There were a lot of unknowns about that culvert, and the DOT ultimately decided that the risks to the projects, and that's projects plural, so it would be risks to this projects and also other projects which would be consequently affected. But some of those risks include costs, complexity, schedule, and safety. The DOT ultimately decided that those were not responsible risks to take with taxpayer money. So again, we will be happy to take any questions about this. I'm certainly not an expert in this matter by any means. I'm a construction engineer, so I receive the plans and execute the contract. And I have limited involvement in planning. However, we will be happy to take some questions on this. We have a few more slides. We're just about finished going over the East Norwalk update, but after we will be happy to take some questions and answer them to the best of our ability.
Moving on.
So the final project we got here, well, I guess there's one more after me, but I think
One
Jeff's
more.
going to take that one. The Strawberry Hill Avenue Railroad Bridge. You'll notice we completed the north side of the Strawberry Hill Avenue Railroad Bridge. This bridge looks a little bit different than our other bridges. This one's concrete encased girders. So we complete, again, we're very proud to see some progress. We completed the north side, and the south side will begin in spring to summer of 2027. Again, just like you saw with the north side, the roadway will be closed in both directions for approximately 6 months. Once we start work on the south side, again, spring to summer of 2027. And we anticipate completing this project in fall to winter of 2027.
Jeff, are you going to take AUP? Jeff Bird?
Good evening. Yeah, no, I'd be happy
All right.
to. We do have, we do have this nice rendering. This is a modeling package that you probably have seen, but to give you an idea of what we're doing, this particular advanced utility project is undergrounding a lot of the currently aerial electrical systems. So a lot of the work for this AUP or advanced utility project is underground. So it's not super exciting to look at, but in regards to kind of an update, I'm happy to report we are almost done with this project. We have done all substantially completed the undergrounding of the utilities, various utilities, electrical systems, communications, drainage, water. A lot of that has been completed. The last phase or the last step we are currently working on is actually aerial communications that facilitate actually the city of Norwalk communications backbone. So if you do see us out there, we're installing a significant amount of fiber optic cable. Some of it's underground, some of it is aerial along Fort Point Street. That's going to connect the DPW to the town hall. We do anticipate wrapping up the installation of the wire in about 2 weeks, actually, and then we have splicing and cut over work to do after that. But we are looking to complete this hopefully by the end of the winter here. We'll say spring, but optimistically by the end of February is what we're really optimistically looking at to complete that work. We have a little bit of sidewalk restoration to do, but happy to report we are almost done with the AUP project.
That's good news. All right. And our usual contact information, just want to shout out to everybody on the call. Info at walkbridgect.com is the best, but also we do have our welcome center at 24 Marshall Street. And if you'd like to come over, we are there typically every day, but we have Welcome Center hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 to 3, but we're pretty much there if you want to come over and chat further, look at further slides and so on. Please do give us a reach out, and we're happy to meet with you when we can get everybody together. So with that, I would like to, Diane, if you want to moderate for taking of the questions, we're happy to answer as best as we can.
Thank you. And I don't know, you're probably better off just continuing to share the screen in case we need to refer
Sure.
back to that. So let me just get things started. And I think what we'll do, Charles, is we'll alternate between raised hands and comments in the chat and see how many we can get to. I know Stephanie and your team, I can tell you a few things that I know people are interested in. And there may be obvious questions. Maybe you can just knock them off. On the Advanced Utilities Project, and thanks for that update on that, I'm not quite sure how we understand that with a completion date when we're saying that we still have to, there's still a lowering of the road that has to happen. And one of the main complaints that we hear, not just in terms of how long all of this has taken relative to other DOT projects, around the state that are going on, and things that you seem to be able to expedite. But the other thing is how many times East Avenue has been dug up and closed and dug up and closed. So when you're talking about that, then doesn't the road have to be, dug up again in order to finish the lowering that you're talking about?
So I'll take that over. So the Advanced Utility Project is exactly that. It's to install the underground facility so that we could ultimately remove all the aerial wires along East Ave. So that work is done. The road lowering is really tied to the East Ave bridge replacement project, which is going to be lowering the road. So that's tied to the bridge replacement and not the Advanced Utility Project. So, all the digging up that you saw from that other renderings, you saw the amount of utilities that were underneath that road. And Stephanie, if you could slide back and just so everybody can have a visual reference of that. Each of those different colored utilities on that rendering signified a trench that needed to be dug on the roadway. You can see there's an extensive network of utilities, right? Because right there on your utility poles, you have Power, you have Crown Castle, Frontier, Altice, the City Fiber, along with TTD, that we had to go in and put in all that infrastructure underground. So ultimately everything could be taken off of those poles. So it did take quite a bit of time. We had to do all that work at night with smaller work windows, so that work did extend. And also we can't, because in the winter times we have to shut down. We can't use road plates. We have pretty much 4 months out of the year where we can't do any work. So that work took a long time, but we're glad to say that it's ultimately done. And then now it's the second phase of that, where the utility companies are going to start putting in all their conductors into these facilities that we've installed. And ultimately, we're going to take down those poles, and you guys are going to have a nice roadway there with historical lighting and no more visual obstructions along the staff. So that's the nuance there. The ultimate lowering there, we can't do the final lowering of the road until the new bridge is in place, right? So we need to construct those new abutments there. Because right now the existing bridge, it has a shallow foundation. Basically, if we dig down more than a foot below the existing grade where we currently are, we would destabilize the existing abutments there. So we can't do that final lowering until that new abutment, those new abutments are in place and the new bridge is in place, and that's when we'll come in and do the final lowering. Also, we need to have that new drainage line that we talked about there in place, so that when we do lower the road, we could take in the additional flows, and ultimately prevent the flooding that you guys currently frequently see along East Ave. So we need to have that drainage installed there before we do that final loan. We don't want to create another swimming pool for you guys out there when we do get some heavy storms. So that's really why these things are sequenced in a certain way, and it has to be done in that fashion.
Okay, I don't think that I'm still clear on the steps that are taken relative to lowering and digging up the road again and accomplishing all of that, especially with the drainage, but we can move on from that, and maybe some other folks have some questions on it. I think the other big question comes into play of the timing on all of this is this a priority in terms of trying to expedite this versus what the original project plans were? Because it does seem to be, dragging on forever. And we see timelines now of 2027 and 2028. What can be done to expedite this?
Well, we try our best, right? We've added additional crews. We're looking to, add additional shifts out there, and try to maintain the schedule as best as we can.
Okay, and then my other question before we get to the audience is that you didn't mention the developer of the complex at 1 Cemetery Street. And there's a definite, connection between DOT and them and the city in terms of the work that's being done, especially in that area, where they're contracting to have work done relative to the drainage, the lane changes, the markings. In fact, we got a memo the other day that said, that they were paying for portions of it. So how does their development and their contractors play into this scenario?
Well, the developer there, when they put in that development there, they need to apply for a permit there to provide a driveway into their facility. So they proposed modifications to traffic flow so that they could accomplish that, and that was submitted and also approved. And what you guys couldn't see out there that was installed was what they submitted for their temporary traffic revisions until we come in there and ultimately through our Gregory Boulevard project, we would have the final traffic flow configuration up there.
So basically the DOT approved their project to align their driveway to allow the development, but with the condition that they pay for those particular improvements?
That's how every project on any state highway goes. If a developer comes in there, does a curb cut, they have to basically perform the work for their purpose. So DOT does not fund private development projects.
Okay, let's go ahead and open it up. Charles, are you ready? We can.
Yes. Well, since we were just talking about it, there's something in chat. Is there a final clearance height for traffic under that East Avenue bridge?
There is. It's 13.4.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we have a hand raised.
I'm sorry. What was that height?
13.4. So
13.4.
Yes.
Not the 14.2.
No, I'll double check on what we have, but 13.4, I believe so. But if I'm incorrect, we'll send you something else to confirm that.
Okay, LC, please accept the prompt.
So this is in response to Richard Lazo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. When he was speaking about the culvert and the box that's underground on Cemetery Street. This was a part of my 5-page letter to the zoning board when, this project was originally considered for the Miller River Apartments. And I'm surprised you would not be knowledgeable on the 1998 abatement study that was done over there that absolutely concluded that the age of the culverts in connection with the drainage over there under Cemetery was from the era of 1948. And back in 1998, it was cited that it was inadequate even at that time and should and needed to be upgraded before any further construction or developments were done in the area because it was highly inadequate at that time. So just to put that into perspective, you might want to cite that study. If I could find your email, I could send it over to you along with my multiple commentary regarding the drainage in East Norwalk, also of issue to digging underground where the East Avenue bridge currently exists. Flooding has been observed there for decades. The area is a flood zone on the government flood zone maps. So to dig down into that area, you would have to look into some of those older maps as to adequate drainage, which probably should have been done years ago. So I agree with you there. Drainage is critical as to lowering that road in that area to avoid the flooding, and that drainage should also be going into the culverts that are the waterway to removing drainage from that area, and used to go out into the sound from the Mill River. So you can find a lot of information about the dates and what exists underground in the 1998 abatement study that was done.
Thank you. Yep.
Since we're looking at close to another year before the actual train station is completed, is there any plans to put up a temporary shelter for people in the rain or snow? It's been pretty brutal out there.
No, there currently are no plans to put in that temporary shelter in that area. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that because of the temporary platform was currently constructed over the existing track one there, and there's overhead catenary wire that are electrified, which would prevent the construction of that shelter.
Okay, next would be, is there an improved traffic pattern for the existing New Haven side parking lot?
No, we're not making modifications to that parking lot.
Judy in the chat says, when there are major closures that affect the flow of traffic to 95, can there be coordinated with Westport so that Winfield and Saugatuck is not closed at 17 from East Norwalk at the same time?
Yes, we'll take a look into that.
Okay, is Strawberry Hill Bridge built to handle the periodic and frequent truck strikes? At least every 2 months, a truck nails that bridge.
So I can comment on the Strawberry Hill. Yes, the Strawberry Hill Bridge is designed to be impacted by an overhead vehicle.
We would prefer they didn't drive into it, but
Yeah, of course.
Okay, do you have any graphics for the Eversource project?
No.
No.
Okay.
I'm not even aware of what project they're doing.
I have a question about the Osborne Bridge. When you say you are going to restore the sidewalk, is that both sides? Because one side, the sidewalk just kind of ends at that bridge, and pedestrians have to walk into the street to actually get to Fort Point.
It'll be the existing sidewalks that are restored. So we'll put 5-foot sidewalks back in the existing footprint.
So that will remain a dead end basically for the sidewalk on that one side.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
If that's the case, then is it possible to petition to add a crosswalk and maybe like a warning light? Like a light that pedestrians can illuminate to alert cars because the pedestrians have to cross there. Even just some watch for ped signage would be really great.
Yeah, we could look into that.
On the rendering, it looks like there is no sidewalks, only like bike path. Oh, I'm wrong. Yeah, I agree that should be a crosswalk or something for so many pedestrians there.
Yeah, it's the heart of the TOD.
Okay, so when will the double pole at East Avenue and Winfield go away? It forces pedestrians into the street if they're coming from Gregory.
Double pole, what are you referring to?
If you're walking past Giant Laundry towards the East Norwalk train station, there is a double pole that blocks the sidewalk. It's the one corner that's not visible in that last slide that you just showed. It's not visible in any of your renderings, but I'm talking about but yeah, the corner nearest to Giant Laundry, where there's a double pole at the Chester's Chicken gas station. And if a pedestrian is coming from the Giant Laundry direction, you have to walk into the street to get around the double pole if you are, not thin as a rail and don't have a suitcase or a stroller or anything like that with you. And even though the crosswalk is a lot better with the reminders, people still be turning on red at whatever speed they like.
That's the Valero corner.
Yes, thank you. I just think of it as the Chester's Chicken corner.
The south side of Winfield.
Yes, southeast corner of the intersection.
Yeah, that's when we're gonna be upgrading that intersection there. And Jeff, do you remember the date of this? It's 28 when we're gonna be putting those signals? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, that sounds correct.
Yeah.
We can get back with a better date, but that seems like in the ballpark. 28.
Yeah, I would have to get back to you on the schedule there, but it'd be late 27, early 28 when we'd be putting in the new signals, which would eliminate all that.
But it is planned as one of the utility improvements that the double pole will go away.
Yes, it is.
Yay! Thank you.
Okay, next, it concerns the Welcome Center. And why is it the Welcome Center is not available for weekend visits? It's only open Tuesday through Thursday. Anybody with a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday job, almost impossible for them to actually go there. Any plans to open it on the weekends or partially on the weekends?
We could look at it. There's enough if there's enough interest for us to have weekend hours, we definitely could entertain it.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Stephanie's got to take a break every once in a while,
Well, she could take Mondays off.
But yeah, I want to echo Gus's
Thanks,
point. If
Charles.
there's interest in that, we could either
You
do
call my
some-
boss on that.
we could either do some kind of partial hours every few weekends, maybe, or it might even be better to do a community event on one day on the weekend. But we can definitely look into that.
Yeah, I
That's a
think
good
that'll
idea.
be helpful for sure.
I just do want to add that we are out in the community on many weekends, the Oyster Fest being one of them. Last year, we also hosted a public boat tour of the Walk Bridge. So that was after work hours. So stay tuned to your social media feeds and whatnot to stay tuned with when we're out in the community as well. And plus, we're also out in the community during the week, door to door. And pretty much you can see us, have a presence out there, but we're happy to make accommodations when we can.
Hi, this is Andrew Kaplan. Can I jump in for a quick question?
Yeah, absolutely.
How you guys doing? I just want to revisit the shelter that can't be erected on the New York City side platform. Can you just explain that a little further? I don't see why you wouldn't be able to cantilever something out over there, or possibly get 4 points and post down something. I'm out there every morning, rain or shine. So why can't you put something up?
Right now we're currently over. We're currently that temporary platform is on track 1, which there's overhead catenary wires that overhead that we can't put a structure too close to it. So that's really currently the issue we have out there.
Too close to it. There's no area. There's no section of it along that whole run.
The catenary wires are directly overhead.
And you can't stay below them.
Yeah, you can't get too close to them, or else it becomes an issue. So that's why we can't have anything in that area.
So you can't get below. You can't get below them.
We could get below them, but you can't get too close to them with anything.
So the issue with first of all, it's ironic that all of this project, it started originally as Metro North with the catenary lines, and then from there, it turned into something else, which you're seeing today, and then some. But I'm not understanding. So if you're saying, so the catenary line work that still has to be done on the East Avenue train station, then that's going to remedy the issue for the canopy?
No, we're putting canopy on the new platform, which is adjacent to the tracks, which is adjacent to the existing catenary.
Okay.
And the platform is literally sitting on top of track 1, which is in the interior track, but you have overhead catenaries above it.
Do you have a picture of that we can see what it's supposed to be?
I have it right here. As you can see, that's going to be the canopy, but what Gus is saying is that the temporary track lies under live wires. The new platform will not. So the temporary platform does exist right now under live catenary. We cannot build something on that.
And the catenaries that you're talking about, those are existing and staying, or those still are to be replaced? I just saw a notice on that the other day.
They're existing or staying.
Sorry?
They're existing or staying.
Okay, and to Andrew's question though, you're saying that you can't do anything that accommodates a line, but do it low enough so that it's not near them, but still enough for.
No.
No, really, the issue we run into over there is you need, per building code, you need to have a clear space from the finished floor above head of 80 inches. And once you get 80 inches above the finished floor of our temporary platform, if you go 80 inches up, you're too close to erect a structure to that. You're too close to the catenary wire.
I have to agree with
Okay.
Andrew that that there has to be some place, or even if it's low and we have to duck and have benches under there that we're sitting at.
I understand the 80-inch code, but this is a temporary structure, which is turning into a little longer than temporary for those of us that are standing out there.
No,
And I appreciate following code, safety, catenary. No one wants to blow up. But I don't see where you can't jog it down. If it's not 80, maybe it's 70. And Gus, you're referring to that you have to be some distance away. I appreciate, RJ, that you gave me a dimension. Okay, we're dealing with 80 inches. And I guess that above at that 80 to the catenary, that's the number you're kind of playing with or you're looking at. But this is, year 2 or going into year 3, whatever it is. And I would just hope between everything that's being accomplished here, the magnificent structural work that you guys are doing down the line and up the line, that somehow you can't get a 2x4, you can't get some kind of lean-to run along that platform.
Or even run it along the ramp just before it gets to the platform, so that people.
We understand your frustration, but come September of this year, you'll have a beautiful canopy up there, and that issue won't exist.
Okay. All
Bear
right.
with us for a little bit
Maybe
longer.
this year, Gus.
You're gonna have that. You're gonna have that in place, and you're gonna
lost
be.
a month. You already lost a month with the weather, and I understand that. But you got to add 30 days, whatever number you had. You better add 2 months, 30 working days to whatever number you had after this past winter we're having. So September is optimistic, I think. And I saw you put up your structure, you put up your frame. There was one up this morning. I saw that. Respect for that. But you're down, another dozen to get this thing done.
Thanks, Andrew. Charles, I think I cut off Judy there just to go back and you need to unmute, Judy, please.
I have a quick question. I know that the grocery store, there's going to be some rebuilding along East Avenue. Is that reconstruction? I assume there's something going in where Penny's is, and there's something where the Rite Aid is. We already know. And has somebody taken into account how that construction over there is going to affect all of these projects? I am very concerned that, we're going to run into another one of these things where lanes are closed and closed and closed, and you can't get to the entrance to 16 or come back that way.
That's a good question, Judy. At least in the for the Rite Aid parcel, that's essentially a retail tenant fit up, where the footprint of the building isn't changing significantly. There's some minor changes in the back. That's not to say there won't be disruptions there, with equipment coming in and deliveries and things, but not construction. I kind of dread to think what could happen at Penny's Diner. That is the parcel that could become major construction. And when we saw Cemetery Street, for example, and West Avenue, where the former YMCA was, you can see how much construction encroaches into the public right of ways with all their equipments and blocking lanes and everything. And I think that's a good question. So I'm not for Rite Aid, but that's another host of questions we have regarding the future of Penny's Diner there.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the church property has been on the back burner for a long time, and that would be most likely, major work
Right.
there.
Yeah. And I think what they do is they take into account some of the zoning that would account for it, but with nothing on the table that's public knowledge to us, maybe to the Walkbridge team. It's hard to plan for something that's kind of it could happen down the road. We may have to jump off that bridge when we get to it. Okay, we have a few more minutes. Can we get to a few more, Charles, do you think? Or
Yeah, I actually have one quick question about the final rendition of the station. I know that the AD compliant ramps are there and they're necessary, but are there any plans for a fast track staircase to get to the platform without walking half a mile up those things? If you're late for a train, it really becomes a problem.
In the final condition, there will be.
There will be. Okay, very good. Thank you.
did we get an answer to the first question about the lighting under the bridge? I think that may have been answered, but then I didn't catch it there. Under the railroad bridge.
Yeah, there will be lighting under the bridge. I'm not sure. It might not be shown in the renderings, but there will definitely be lighting under the proposed bridge in East Ave.
So this will be after the lowering of the road.
Yes.
Right. The other question I have too is I was in communication with your team, just from ENNA regarding the southern portion, which is the New Haven bound side, where you were talking about needing to put in another trench and a structure there. I didn't really understand what that is, so maybe you can explain that to us. And then also, if you're able to confirm that you know for sure that the freestanding building that Spinnaker committed to the community when Brim and Crown went in, that was supposed to be an amenities building that maybe had like a small, newspaper stand or coffee shop on the bottom, and for folks to stand in while they were waiting for the train. So can you talk about the structure that's going to be on the south side and confirm whether or not there's going to be an amenities building there?
The drainage structure on the south side you're speaking to? So as part of the project, we're putting in that new drainage line, which is tying into the culvert, which down by Cemetery Street. So that all those drainage improvements there are part of the drainage improvements for East Ave to prevent any future flooding there at the road.
I'm having a little trouble understanding you. I'm sorry. So what I'm talking about is within the parking lot. I believe we were talking about of the south side on the New Haven side.
Yeah, there's a utility building that's going in along the railroad, Diane. It's a utility building. It's not for commuters, and we're doing utility work there. That is why we had to have a temporary parking restriction of approximately 20 spaces, and it's to dig the trench and put in the utility building. So that is purely for utilities. It's not for commuters. As far as the Spinnaker Promise building, I don't have any information on that. I don't know if members of the team do or not.
We do not have any information on
that. And the utility building is just like a structure that you have access to maintain.
It's a building that we can maintain utilities for the station. So it's power panels, generators, those appurtenances.
And how big is that structure, and does that reduce permanent parking?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not in the parking lot. It's along the right of way of the railroad.
Okay, so it doesn't come out into the lot.
No.
And then while we're waiting for a couple of other questions, do you have any definitive answer yet on the future of 182 East Avenue, the temporary commuter and staging lot next to Rite Aid, or the former Rite Aid?
No, we do not.
Okay, and then Stephanie, the picture that I mentioned before, the one that I wanted to show you, you actually would have it there somewhere. The original utilities and undergrounding and drainage work, all of the original renditions that we saw only went from Olmsted Place down to Fort Point. And then there was some extended work that would have come up to portions of it up to Van Zandt. When exactly did DOT or Walkbridge team get involved with anything having to do with going around Cemetery Street into Gregory Boulevard? Since that's not in any of the original documents.
That was always part of the plan. It was part of the East Ave Roadway project, which has been designed since the early 90s. So that was always be completed. So what you're seeing there is regarding the advanced utilities. The other portion around Cemetery Boulevard is part of the East Ave Roadway project, which we had to break it up into two pieces because of the way utility work has to be staged.
So, and that's part of the confusion when we're all looking at this. There's the original East Avenue work, and then then that project was combined with the Walkbridge project, as most people know. But everything that then was shown to us under the Walkbridge project did not have any of the maps that extended out to Gregory. So I'm just saying, from our point of view, since the Walkbridge project was combined with East Avenue Improvement or Roadway project, why was that excluded in even the most recent renditions?
You talking about this one right here? I mean, because this is just showing the utility work.
And what I'm saying is the original renditions of this did not have the red. It only had the original line coming down. I can share my screen if you want, but it's still the rendition you show on the Walkbridge site. Part of the reason why we wanted you here is that we're getting resistance from the city trying to address all the questions that the community has. And the last communication we had with them, in particular regarding Gregory and Cemetery, was you have to go to the Walkbridge folks and ask them. Basically, the city saying we have nothing to do with this. So,
I mean, we're not hiding anything. That's always been part of the project, that we were always going to do that work. It's been part of the program for the last 4 years.
so even though it's not on the, okay, I'm not going to belabor it, but even though we wouldn't have seen it on those maps, in your own project design, you're saying it was always a part of what you guys were working on.
Yeah, and I mean, even the different updates we've done, we've always shown that remedy. So I'm not sure what graphic you're referring to. Since I
can share my screen if.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think the other thing I'd like to understand personally, and you can follow up with this if you want, is what things would be different now in the absence of the one Cemetery Street development and the way that they had to configure for their layout in order to have that particular driveway. Let me get to the picture I'm talking about in a second.
The misunderstanding there. That's specifically to the utility work, which is between Winfield and Olmsted. That's not the road reconstruction.
Okay, so there's
undergrounding. It's just that graphic there where you saw all those different network of conduits and duct feints underneath the roadway. That's the limits of that work. And
okay, and so is
that East Ave utility work, not East Ave road reconstruction.
Okay, so the other portion you're calling the road reconstruction, which then includes the drainage versus the utility that we saw.
Correct.
Okay, and then let me ask you one more question, Gus, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you can't answer it, just tell me. So in all of the original renditions, and now I go back 20 years with this project on East Avenue, just so you know, the improvements that were supposed to happen under the bridge prior to all of the improvements that you guys came up with, that was all supposed to be handled at Fort Point with the Water Pollution Control Authority and the city working together with pumping stations there. Do you know when it was extended to be beyond that point and then come out to the culvert and the drainage that's at Gregory? I know you're saying in the 1990s, and we all know that it was identified then, but for all those years, the city did nothing. And 3 of our directors of public works said there was no intention to do that the solution was at Fort Point Street.
That I'm not aware of, but I wasn't involved in the design of that project, with the project.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so we're right at 8:06 at the hour mark. Charles, do we have any other hand up for one more question or anything in the chat? We can.
No, it looks like we covered just about everything here.
Okay, and I think what we can do to manage this is if there was a lot to digest here. We will post this video. We try to do it by the end of the week or maybe the weekend. I'll leave that to Charles when we can get to this. And then if you still have questions after taking a look at this, and I think we do, you can send them directly to the Walkbridge team at their email and through their website. You can send it in to us at info at East Norwalk. .org, and we will get this into them. And then I think if we feel that it's necessary, and thank you, Stephanie, and your team for always willing to, to come in and meet with us. If we think it's necessary after this, when we get some more feedback from the community and we get some questions that we're waiting on from the city of Norwalk and some other state officials, then what we can do is schedule another meeting and have the folks come back and give us an update. And I just think that the real message here is that these folks know, and we all know, that East Norwalk has been the epicenter of, the bulk of this work. It relates to the walk bridge, but to us, this is really the impact on East Norwalk, and it's been ongoing. And, when we see dates now still like 27 and 28, it just seems like it's unending. And it's just really been a bad quality of life here. The other concern always that we have is there's, not necessarily a whole lot of benefit for the local community outside of things that would have been done with, sidewalks and other things not related to the Walkbridge team. And people are really struggling with having to put up with all of this and, for the sake of, commuters that are passed through, on the trains, et cetera. So that's why we like to get together and get updates and see if there's anything that you can do to expedite this, and certainly to try to make things more, comfortable and be conscious of the impact it has not only on the commuters, but the people that live here, and the congestion and the gridlock and the road rage and the frustration that this is causing. So we're still hopeful in the end that things will look like, what they're supposed to look like. And, hopefully we'll be happy with this. And we know there's not a lot of modifications that can be made and kind of pause and go back. But I do see I just do see Officer Roland Amparo's hand up, so maybe we can just grab him before the team leaves. That's okay, Stephanie.
Sure.
Okay.
Question?
Go ahead, Roland. Hi.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. First and foremost, hope everyone's having a happy new year. It's been a while since I've spoken to everyone. But I just wanted to briefly just address the traffic pattern issue right there at Gregory and Cemetery. I know someone mentioned it in the chat. But we are addressing some concerns that we did get in regards to that traffic pattern with the yield sign over on Gregory approaching Cemetery / East Avenue. I was actually out there today just monitoring the situation, just trying to get a sense of what's going on. Obviously, there's some confusion with some people because East Norwalk residents are not used to having a yield sign coming off of Gregory Boulevard. And then obviously the people turning on Cemetery or from Cemetery onto East Avenue from the curve, they have no sign there now. there's just a lot of confusion, on everyone's part. So I am monitoring the situation. I'm trying to get it sometime in the morning. I was out there for the AM rush hour. Tomorrow I will be there in the evening rush hour just to see how everything works. But I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you so much. And I should have mentioned for folks who may not know you or met you at our last meetings that Officer Amparos, actually our East Norwalk community policing officer who's assigned to our district. And he'll attend our meetings when time permits and on his own time, as he's done as well in the past. And we do appreciate the chief, allocating the time for you to monitor over there. We know people are, and I'm very concerned about that pattern and people understanding how it'll work. I think it's, possibly a tragedy waiting to happen with people flying through there. And I do know that there are at least a couple of people that are already sending in requests to the city and state and asking them to reconsider that change before it gets too late, to go back and really let the one cemetery development deal with whatever they need to do with their driveway versus changing the entire traffic pattern in the community and on a state route. So folks are asking to go back, and I think Officer Amparos, what he comes up with in terms of what he's observing there is going to be helpful one way or another to one, either say this, this doesn't seem to be an issue now, but we don't know about beach season, or he may be observing so much confusion and near hits that he'll go back and bring that back to his team at the police department too.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roland.
No, I just want to say that, yes, you're spot on, Diane. So
Okay.
any concerns that everyone has or that anyone has, you guys have my contact information. Just reach out if you need me. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you know what? I'll post your contact information again in the weekend newsletter for folks that didn't get it, from the last meeting, so we make sure they have it. So I just want to say thank you, and folks can please stay on if you'd like. And we'll say thank you to Stephanie and Gus and Rich. I'm not sure who's still on there from Greg from the Walkbridge team. We appreciate you coming in. You're welcome to stay on, and we'll go ahead and keep our meeting open. We're not going to go through the rest of the agenda, but we'll keep the meeting open if you guys want to discuss any of this or have any other topic that you have. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you very much, Diane. Thank you, everyone on the call, and thank you to our team. We really do appreciate the feedback. We do listen. Well, we've taken our notes. Diane, feel free to follow up with me via email tomorrow, please, just with a couple of notes that we can follow up on and help better clarify. You're right. There are multiple concurrent projects that are going on out there. It is a mega transportation infrastructure project that involves not only the railroad, the station, but also the roadways underneath the railroad. Believe me, if we didn't have to take roadways out of service to work up top, we wouldn't. But it's for safety purposes, and keeping everybody safe is our number one priority. As far as the walk bridge goes, that is the heroine of the project. We work on keeping the railroad going. That is the mandate. It is the busiest rail corridor probably in the entire country. We have continuous train service, and our goal is for reliable, sustainable train service that can last for generations to come. So it's imperative that the work proceed on the railroad track, because unlike working on the roadway, we can't just take a lane out, right? There's no detour off the railroad. So when we work on two-track service, is what we're doing up top, that is why we are working on the north side and the south side of the railroad tracks as we speak. So there is a method to the madness. We are great at explaining it one-on-one as well, but it is a railroad construction job, and the fact that we're able to improve all of this infrastructure below deck is imperative Just think over at the Walk Bridge, we've been doing work underneath the Norwalk River. So there has been a tremendous amount of work, and some of the most talented minds in engineering are applying to this project. This is a once in a career project. We are committed to the community, and our hearts and our doors are always open. This is not about making people feel confused, left out, cold. I too take the train, so I get it about standing on platforms. And we really do appreciate the ongoing patience and working together through communication. We will get through this. It will get done. We've made incredible progress. The fact that we're putting up the canopies now really should be a visual testament to that we are making progress. Everybody's going to get a quiz at the end of this project because we all expect you to be bridge building experts as well. So, and if you don't know what a catenary structure is by the time we're done, or roadway, manhole cover, or this and that, you definitely will. So we can all deputize you later for not only being one of the most willing neighborhoods to work with us, but you are the neighborhood that we're working in. So it's very important that we, keep those lines open. No question is too small or too big. Everybody is being inconvenienced at one point or another, whether it's a pedestrian or a commuter or the traveling public or school buses. You guys all get our newsletters. If you don't, I better get an email from you tomorrow to sign you up. Because I know a lot of you aren't on my email list because I know the names. So please get on that list because we send out a weekly construction news every Friday. It publishes news for what's happening the following week starting Monday. We have a live construction activities map on the website. We put banners on the front page of our website with activities going on. Things do change. All of our schedules are subject to change. So when we post something one day and then the next day we have an update, please pay attention to that. It's not because we don't know what we're doing. It's because we have to adjust the construction schedule for a myriad of reasons, many of which won't make sense to the regular layperson, but it's not because we don't want to get it done and stick to schedules. This is very important to be advancing the project. So I really hope that over time that the folks on the call and the neighborhood will understand that we're not the bad guys out there. We're here for you to make your neighborhood better as time goes on, and we're doing the tough work that hasn't been done over centuries of existence. And East Norwalk is the oldest community within the city of Norwalk. So there's a lot of work that has to be done underground, the roadway, the river, as well as up on the rail to make your community as vibrant as we know it can be. That's my little spiel. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks so much,
All right.
Stephanie. Good to see
All
you.
right.
Happy New
Thank
Year
you.
to you and the team. If you do think you can come up with a Saturday, maybe in February, that you just post to the public and see if there's an interest, I think that's a good idea for the folks who would like to come to the visitor center and really see things hands-on and ask questions. I think that would be terrific to do. Just throw the date out, and whoever can make it can make it. I think that would be terrific.
We could also, as time goes on, and the weather certainly improves, we can do tours out in the marketplace. So, if you want to take a tour of the East Norwalk train station, we can work together. So, the Welcome Center has our posters and whatnot, but since you're here in East Norwalk, maybe we can figure something out. But again, we'll work together, and we appreciate your time. I'm going to let everybody go, and I've got to eat my dinner too.
There you go.
So,
thanks.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
everyone.
night.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you
Thanks
so much.
Good night.
Okay, East Norwalk folks. I think I still see a couple of hands up. We can go until our 8:30 time. If folks want to stay on when the recording is not going on, I'm happy to do that for another 15 minutes after that, if you'd like. So,
Okay, we do
Charles,
have a hand
can you
up.
still? Thanks. Okay, who we have?
Good day, and it's me, Jim Anderson.
Oh, hey, Jim. Hi.
Hi, good evening. I live right next to where the church is on Gregory Boulevard. The white house that's on Gregory Boulevard is. I think a few weeks ago I did see it appeared to be like a surveyor I've not heard anything. The Masons have not heard anything. Well, at least they're telling me, the people that I'm talking to have not heard anything. I know there was interest in buying the Mason Lodge, um, and possibly the same people that were buying that white house that's adjacent next to the church. Liz, I don't know if you heard anything from that too. I know you did. Okay. I'm pretty concerned about that. And I believe if I go back in some of the recalling, there was denied having a driveway on the Gregory Street, which is right next to where the island is, where the yield sign is, etc. So they would have to come in through the street I live on, Old Well Court, and through behind the Mason Lodge. Has anybody heard anything regarding that house? That's it.
No, from our end. I know we come up with this question every couple of weeks or every month. I
Right.
wouldn't necessarily, because so much of this stuff goes on behind closed doors before they'll even, hint at making it the light of day. Only from what we've had the Masonic folks tell us that there's no intent to sell their portion of the land property or to sell the building. But
Right.
I hope Liz will jump in. I don't want to put anyone on the spot. To speak about the impact of the Gregory Boulevard changes relative to the church, the parking, and maybe she knows and can say here about the house.
I'm trying to unmute myself here.
There you
Hold
go.
on.
Hi, Liz. Thanks.
Oh,
Sorry.
you
No,
got
you're
me?
unmuted.
Okay,
Okay.
got me. Okay.
Hi.
I don't know anything relevant like that I can share about the Mason Lodge for sure. Okay. But I do know that there's people that are interested in buying that. So whatever's happening is happening behind the scenes, relative to that. What I do know is my meeting with the traffic engineer, because we immediately, as warden of the church, in case anybody doesn't know, I'm warden of Christ Church right now. We did object to this, yield situation and traffic pattern going on at Gregory Boulevard, where cemetery now has the right of way. We did object to that. We weren't notified. No adjacent property owners were notified. 18 months ago, I did meet with these people regarding this traffic pattern, and it seems like, that's, forgotten about. It's my understanding they're gonna, narrow the road. They want to take parking away from the church, street parking in general on the Gregory Boulevard side, tighten it up. And it's meant to be a walkable area. It's certainly not meant to be traffic flow. So there's been not a whole lot of priority given to the residents of East Norwalk in this thinking. I'm on top of communicating with Senator Duff and his team. It's been very difficult to get a copy of the traffic pattern from the DOT. They seem to also be sending all the questions in Norwalk to Stephanie Peltier, who we just listened to, and citing this as the Walk Bridge project. However, I never knew that traffic pattern to be a part of that. So, let's see what happens here in some of my negotiations and discussions, because I feel that the church was put right in the middle of a new intersection that we weren't communicated with about, and changes in traffic pattern, which is not to the letter of the law as far as communication goes, etc. So I'm going to hold them to account on all of that and see what they say. As far as the White House and the Masonic Lodge, they are also adjacent property owners that could object to this new traffic pattern and should do so. And again, like I said, I'm not really sure about a property buy from the Masonic Lodge, but I've heard some rumors, and I can't really share anything that is not known or anything that I can't speak to at this moment, but I'm on top of that as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
Thank you.
And I'll add to that too, Liz. When you talk about non-notification, one of the things that should have happened is that. Well, I'll step back. So on any street that's in the city, anyone who lives on a street or owns a property on a street can actually petition the city, or at least put in a request to have some modification done to a traffic pattern, or to add a stop sign, or where the no parking from here to the side might be, all kinds of those things. And then typically what happens, some of those things, the city traffic engineers will take a look at, and they say that, they'll come out and they'll do studies and they'll monitor things, and they'll say, yes, this makes sense. It seems to be a safety issue. And they're supposed to notify the neighbors that they're intending to do this. The step that must happen next is that they must bring their proposed solution to the traffic authority. And so then the traffic authority would investigate it, and then they would also take comment from other people who own property on the street as to whether they support it or not. One of the curious things that happened this year, right before the election, some of you may recall, was in a traffic authority meeting, the then Mayor Rilling actually stopped in the middle of the meeting regarding a part of this project and said, I don't recall the Gregory Cemetery lane changes coming before our traffic authority. So even if the first part of the requirement would be for one property owner to request it, and there is one property owner on Cemetery Street, it is one Cemetery Street, the development, okay? So even if they requested all of this, because they already knew in order to get the 77 units in, they had to have the driveway over the pipe, because that's where the easement is. They were never, of course, it'd be silly to put, 80 units over a pipe that the city might have to get through, right, Jim? So anyway, if they put the request in, and that's what kicked all this off and started talking about where that driveway would be, and all the rest of us thought the driveway should be further to the west, or have their driveway on East Avenue across from Sweet Ashley's, it didn't suit their purpose to get all those units in. But what should have happened after that request went in, or when they were working with the city, should have been a proposed plan that went to the traffic authority. When Mayor Rilling brought this up at that meeting, he actually polled the commissioners who sit on the commission with him, and asked them, does anyone recall, or have we had any discussion on this? And all of them said no.
So that would answer.
So the intent there was supposed to be then to go back, because I was on that meeting, obviously I brought all this up. The intent then was then to go back and presumably retroactively for just traffic mobility and parking and DPW to kind of do a mea culpa and say, we don't know how we missed getting this through you, but now we're bringing it to you, and can you approve it? And of course it would be approved, but I still don't think it's come before an agenda in November and December. And they meet next week, so I'll know that, I think next week, because it was a holiday. So Liz, in terms of all of that stuff happening, where you're saying there was no notification, all the other legal requirements for what should have been done didn't happen either. And that just makes all of this stink more like,
that's
what it is.
What that so coincides with what you just said, with the $97,000 Common Council approved traffic study and the timeline. Because after Rilling did that, then there was a $97,000 expenditure from the Common Council to do a traffic study, and you've not seen it. No one's seen that. Maybe that's what we're seeing now. It's kind of like an afterthought. And now let's figure this out. It's really poor planning in general.
Are you talking about the citywide traffic management plan?
There was something I recall, Diane, that was 97,000.
Right.
It came about, I want to say September maybe of last year, September or thereabout time frame, and it was like okay, we got to approve this. It was a traffic study, I believe, and I know it had to do with Gregory Boulevard, Cemetery Street, this whole area.
Yeah,
and that may be the reason. Maybe really asked a good question. It never came before us. Oh, we have to do this. That type of thing.
Yeah, and I think the big question too, and I'm glad Liz and others have raised this point, is that I think that there's enough concern that somebody ought to take it back to the drawing board. Just to say, and I don't know if I think Roland's still on, Officer Amparo's still on. you know, because it's not just the safety issue of what's happening now with that intersection. If you think about it now, with the yield on Gregory, you have people driving at full speed on a straight runaway. I mean, even when they hit the curve there at Old Saugatuck and the Masonic Lodge, you're still going at a pretty good clip.
Oh, yeah.
I know that because I can tell you I do it.
I
I'll
could hear
fess
the
up.
tires screeching.
I've done my personal best coming around there when I had my sports car coming around the bend there. But
when they first, met with me 18 months ago, which they don't seem to remember, I had raised the issue. If you're going to even consider doing that, you need a stoplight there.
Yeah.
If you want to create that intersection, you need a stoplight. You also need it to face the church because you're putting an intersection in front of the church. Good luck ever getting out of there without a major accident. That includes the church, Cemetery Street, and Gregory Boulevard. You need to have that in addition to like flashing lights when you do come around that blind corner that you just spoke about. And that would need to be put into the entire traffic pattern if that's how you want to do it. Okay, that would be the only thing. And they keep telling me, oh no, that would take, years again, because notification, etc. They are trying to obfuscate the legal process here. And somebody has to hold them to account, which is what I'm trying to do.
I think so too. And I think the whole thing now with the pushback to the walk bridge is indicative of that, Liz, where they're getting a little nervous now that people are asking the questions and backtracking to say, how did this even all happen? And don't forget, in the very beginning, when we had the back and forth with Steve Kleppen telling us it's not us looking to do this, it's a developer. And then went back to the developer and said, it's not us. City has this complete streets program with Jim Travers' team, which came about afterward. So there was all of this going on to try to justify what they knew they wanted to do. I think the other point you raise about the flashing red too is that I'm not going to indict the whole community, but I have found in Norwalk, no one understands the difference between yield and merge. I mean, two really big differences. And one of the folks, maybe on this call tonight, raised a good point about with the single lane on Cemetery now. If you do intend to yield and you're looking to your left to be able to do so, you have no indication whether a car on Cemetery is going left or right, because there's only the single lane. And the other thing no one in Norwalk does is use that little lever called the turn signal to indicate where you're going. So no one's going to, so now you're completely hopeless once you hit there about knowing where that car is going to, what their intent is. And so essentially, if everyone's going to have to stop anyway, I think you're right. So maybe the flashing red that forces it. I don't know.
How are they going to get across to turn on Emerson, though? I mean, a lot of people come around up 136 to go up to Emerson. At least we had 2 lanes there before, so 1 lane was turning on to Emerson. Now you've got only 1 lane, and to get across that traffic, this is going to be a nightmare, especially at night coming in from the beach on a Saturday afternoon.
So, Donna, I live on Emerson, and I have not had trouble driving.
Not yet. It's not summer. I want to see what happens in the summer, and I want to see during rush hour. I mean, I live on Gregory, 4 houses past the development. I can't get out of my driveway many mornings because there's so much traffic going that way.
I mentioned this in the chat too. I also feel much safer as a frequent pedestrian, cyclist, and scooterer with the current traffic pattern because it forces everyone to slow the fuck down.
I understand, but I still see, I often come around the cemetery and want to go back up onto Emerson. And once there's a lot of traffic coming that way, if I'm coming from Gregory and someone's coming, they've got to cross traffic now versus stay in a lane. And
But isn't that what the yield is for? So that it gives the left turning traffic time to get across Emerson?
Traffic. How do you cross through a traffic pattern, yield or not? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
I'm not a traffic engineer, but I like it.
Yeah.
And you know what, Donna, too, that raises the point, too. I'm going to have to check my notes, but remember, I don't know who goes back far enough on here with some of the beginning of this, but do you guys recall when they originally talked about maybe closing off Emerson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they were going to go one way
through the park there or something.
Yeah, exactly.
The traffic engineer that I met with Friday the 15th told me that is no longer being considered.
Okay.
But I
all right.
raised the same point that Donna did about where do you want the traffic to go to get to Emerson from
Right.
Gregory? Okay.
Right. Okay.
And again, that's where I also suggested to him, instead of this grass you're planning on planting in front of the church
Mhm.
and taking away our parking, you need to make another lane.
Keep the
turn
lane there.
right
Keep the lane
onto
there.
Emerson
Go next to
Street.
the lane.
Yeah, you need another lane
Hey.
there. You need
Yeah.
a different traffic pattern, perhaps a signal light, because this is a whole new intersection. You need like a traffic study to reevaluate what you're doing here.
Right, which apparently they did, and this is where traffic, mobility and parking came up with this, with this plan. But the plan, and in fact, I know what you're saying in terms of the commitment to having improved crosswalk and safety for the pedestrians. But when you look at a plan that was designed for the driveway of the development, I'm not convinced they took everything else into account, and that's what we're talking about now. Liz, do you recall now if the traffic engineer was city or from the state?
It was Ben Young, who is
That's a city. Okay.
Yeah, and
yeah,
he is
yeah.
working directly, as he tells me, with
Mhm.
Stephanie Pelletier,
Yes.
and
yeah,
tells me
yeah.
this is coming out of the Walk Bridge project.
Right.
And I still have questions there
Yeah.
because I'm thinking like you're thinking this is part of an ask from Mill River Apartments, not
And it
the
is. And
Walk Bridge project, which was never a part of this.
And this is where I think, and Barbara Smith, the mayor, knows that this is going to be coming from us now too, to pull all this together and then say to her, here's what it is, and let's see if you can point out who has what, because it's a matter of semantics. When the Walkbridge project people say it's theirs, or the city says it's the Walkbridge projects, in some respect they're talking about the payment for it, but not the design and the city approval of it. Big difference. Big difference. And
here's
so
an anomaly, just to not to interrupt you, but an anomaly. When I asked the engineer, as he stated, cemetery is part of 136. That's a Connecticut DOT state road. But I pointed out where it comes to the intersection that you're putting this yield, that's a local road running into that point, merging into a Connecticut state DOT controlled road. So you're wrong about that. Where you're putting this makes it all under the Connecticut state DOT.
Right, exactly. And in fact, it's so close, that line where 136 swings out. I actually had to pull the maps because we looked to try to prove the tree wasn't part of 136, which would have shut it down. But when you go right up to the line, that's where it was, where 136 swings out and then comes back onto Gregory to Winfield. But again, so this is what we have. Everybody pointing fingers. And I think the biggest thing that we have to go back to is the traffic authority, and hopefully some support from Officer Amparo to give us his best estimate on, how this thing is going to work. Because the other thing that the city told us, I think I had this in my last email, is that they intend to have up the electronic signage and signage only until the public gets used to it. And they said short term, but because everything is so seasonal, they can't have all this stuff taken down and then have the tens of thousands of people that come into this community in the spring and the summer. And who knows when Waze and GPS systems all get updated, and it's just crazy there. And not knowing what's going to be going on with the Masonic or the building, the other church across the street, the right there, the old United Methodist Church, and Jimmy's Diner. I mean, Jimmy Deli. All of these things are impacting it. I think the other thing that's going on now too is that everything is being pushed along because the I don't know for sure that one cemetery has their C of O from zoning or the building department. So everyone's been asking me yet if the city's complied with ENNA's FOI request to find out who knew what and when regarding Gregory and Cemetery. We are now waiting 2 months from the building department to comply with our FOI request. I've given them to the end of the week. to comply, or we will file a complaint with the state FOIC, which, really loath to have to do that, but we just can't have them holding us up on the information that we need to, to maybe try to, hit the pause button and pull back on this thing. Sorry, Charles, we got kind of off there on that.
That's okay.
Big topic. Is there anybody else? I think it's quarter of. Is there anybody in chat or?
Well, there was a couple things in chat, but it's really kind of interesting how this all plays out with complete streets, if they're even going to look at that area and change it.
What you mean for Gregory and Cemetery, or do you mean for?
Yeah, is that part of complete streets at all?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is, because that's what Jim Travers had to use in order to justify the changes that were going into the pedestrian improvements here that Discal is supposed to pay for, which, by the way, we know that it was a DOT that said, Discal was the one who arranged for the contractor to do the, to do the painting of the lines in the new traffic pattern. But that's part of what Jim was saying is what was intended to be in complete streets. And I think the way they worded it is that everything they've done there complies with the complete street standards for what they would be looking to do, in all those situations.
Well, as I recall, they also mentioned walks, which are not there.
Yeah.
And I take the bus right there at Roger Ludlow Square.
Right.
And crossing over there has been a nightmare.
Yeah.
To get the bus.
No, I believe I don't know if Becca's still on. But the
I have put
crosswalks
in
are
so many click-in requests begging for crosswalks there.
I know.
I just want to
plan.
walk to the train, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be able to on Winfield, so that's something, but
I don't know what the holdup is there. It seems like it's very simple for them to do it. It is part of the plan. It is supposed to be paid for by the developer.
White stripes.
White stripes and well, I think there's some permit sign stuff to do too there at the island, but it is very minor, and I don't know why it's not done now.
Yeah.
That's another good question that we can ask. Because
I meant to put in a click-in request because I think TTD maintains the Rogers Square Island, and the amount of snow shoveling they did was purely ceremonial.
Yeah.
You still really couldn't access the sidewalk to get to a very busy bus station.
Yeah, you mean they're at the park itself?
Yeah, at the little parklet, right by the big Christmas tree. Back when there was a mountain of snow, they left 1 foot to walk through the sidewalk.
Okay, yeah, definitely get that to TTD because that's unacceptable there.
Yeah, and my concern, I frequently walk down to Dunkin' Donuts from here, and as somebody mentioned earlier, you can't cross by the laundry there with the gas station, Velo, whatever that gas station is, over to Mobile to get coffee to then go to the train station. I mean, you're putting your life
when you have a sidewalk on both sides, you'll be able to, in theory.
Well, there is a sidewalk, but as somebody said, there's 2 poles there, and you got to kind of squeeze
That was me,
around.
the double pole. Double pole, because I bring a small suitcase with my work tools in it, and I have to divert into the street where everyone's turning on red.
Yeah.
But there's no crosswalk at that intersection either.
I still do the diagonal scramble to cross the one crosswalk to the train station because I can't wait for another one. It already takes so long as it is.
Right. Well, there's no crosswalk though from east on that corner.
But yeah, you're right. It's a totally incomplete intersection.
Yeah.
There's the one walk sign to take you to in front of Station House.
Right.
There's not one to take you to the Mobile. There's not one to take you across the traffic from the train of the cars entering and exiting the train station itself.
But
There's just a yield to pay sign.
They weren't going to do anything before 2028, which seems a little bit ridiculous that they can't do something there.
Again, I'm totally in agreement with you there. I think that that no one is being imaginative about temporary structures, right? If they can throw down some paint on Cemetery and Gregory, then they can buy a couple of flexi posts and make a butt out of the curb.
Yeah.
At the double pole, which would slow down the riders on red. Someone can get out there with their can of spray paint.
That was a paint
here's
the amount of paint they used.
We could go out and paint it ourselves. No.
Yeah, that's what we said midnight painting company. We just have to wait for a nice night, a full moon and nice weather. We could do that.
So,
You know
yeah,
what?
quick,
I
Yeah.
bet you
point to
someone
Becca.
would
Don't not
leave it.
call me.
Or
Would
not.
leave it there. I
Okay.
can do it.
I think we had George. You know, actually, we're still recording too. So just so folks know that we're still recording, we can turn it off if you want, but it's on the recording.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Becca's point,
Mhm.
there shouldn't be a problem because Lamont a few years ago passed a law that states that all you have to do is raise your hand and cars must stop for you.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Oh, that's
Ask
right.
ask
This
the
is
dead
not
people how that
Texas.
went for them.
This is not Texas. This is Connecticut.
I
Exactly.
don't want to be the one who raises my hand and they don't.
Exactly.
Oh, I've raised
Yeah.
my hand. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
they aim for me.
Ironically, though, the bus is supposed to stop for you, even if you're not at a bus stop.
I
But
tried
here's my
walking.
point that I want to raise regarding that yield sign
Mhm.
that's there. Two points. One, the plows knocked them down during the last snowstorm.
Okay.
I actually picked it up and I have a picture of me holding it in my hand.
Yep.
So well done again by the DOT. And then the other is, and this is a stretch, but I always like to stretch the law when I can. There's something that was enacted back in 1964 as part of, the Civil Rights Act, but it's also something they call disparate impact. It's a non-intentional impact to people by just someone doing something like this.
Right.
And I belong to the church, and so does Liz, right there where the yield sign is. So that could impact service and people who want to be a parishioner there. It's an undue impact, but it's something that has an impact on a protected class, which is religion.
Right.
So
That may be the only avenue.
just from a legality standpoint, what they've done is they've effectively caused someone not to be able to invoke their rights for religious freedom due to disparate impact.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's an excellent point. I think there's a case to be made for that, especially with the with the parking and the inconvenience, or the even the perceived threat of not being able to safely get to and from. One of the things we also consider along those lines, George, would be the other legal remedy under environmental justice laws as well. But it's because there's not residential rate there too. It's kind of tough. But changing that yield to where essentially you're going to have cars starting and stopping now at Gregory, and that's the vast amount of traffic. There's an argument that could be made for the additional pollution that's going to be created there now, especially in the summertime, from all of that traffic and having to stop or slow down, etc. I'm not sure how that would work. We'd have to take a look at what the criteria is that they use for what the impact is. If it's a Masonic lodge during, empty during the day, and basically the cemetery where they don't speak up too much, I'm not sure, what that would be. But I think what you're talking about with the church, and I think Liz, you may have mentioned it too.
I've already brought this up. I personally, looking at the whole situation, one of the number one arguments that you would have a chance at winning because the federal government would back you is the religious, equality and discrimination against churches and access to them, especially when we had no problem before, and then they are, giving preferential treatment to a new development over the church, putting an intersection right in front. That's the argument that's winnable in the situation, and treating all the property owners in that area with equality, which goes back to the 14th Amendment. That's your land ownership rights.
But Liz, I think the other thing you can make is the fact that what impact did those new apartments have to deal with? None.
Right.
Right. So they've alleviated the issue with their egress and entrance and put it on somebody else. That goes back to my disparate impact, which is non-consequential or intentional impact to a protected class.
Correct. Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Both of those avenues are pursuable and give us a case,
Yep.
To
Well,
the
I
community
think
as
it's
well,
important.
because our church has been there for over a century, and
Yep,
all of our
125 years.
community knows that and has been a part of it and would stand behind us on, our relevance in the community as a
Yeah.
whole.
Yeah. And Liz, you don't have to say it here, but let me know if you guys are going to pursue this, and if there's anything that we can do to help support it, let me know.
I will communicate with you,
From
Diane.
ENNA. Thanks.
As I
Thanks,
have
Liz.
already. Thank you. Yeah.
Also,
Thanks.
Diane, if you can just make a sort of easily accessible way to support just regular homeowners to fight the yield, so that we can, like, I live off of Cove and Fifth, so we've seen the traffic circle there go to a abomination of different configurations, and it always returns back because it didn't work. Well, if it didn't work there, this is a conceivable not going to work either situation.
Right.
And the reason it reverted back is because there were so many complaints. But I don't recall having access to sort of a avenue of complaint. But I'd be happy to, be a part of it.
Yeah, I think we can just, if people want, we can just kind of go back to our toolbox stuff, just like, just to provide template letters into City Hall. We know, that they're responding. It may not be the answer that we want, but the more people that they hear from, I'm okay with someone helping out to do a petition as well, just so that we can get a lot of signatures in, so that folks. I know part of the response is going to be, well, this has been part of the plan for 2 years, and we had it in there, and people knew it was coming. But no, people don't pay attention to this stuff, or couldn't really visualize what it really was going to end up being with that yield changing there. And I do think there's an opportunity to change it, and we should do everything we can. So I'm happy to do that, Tracy. I'll get it out in an email and let people know all the tools that they can use to communicate it in. Speaking of next month's meeting and ending up this one, originally we were looking to have our Common Council members at this meeting tonight, and the mayor. And then we ended up booking a walk bridge instead, because they weren't quite ready. And we're looking to have them at our February meeting. So our 2 District C representatives and Mayor Smith at our February meeting. And we're trying to work that out now with timing. It may be that we start the meeting an hour early due to other conflicts that they have. But if we can't make that work, I'm thinking that we may have to have an additional meeting in February just to have them here, because they need to listen, from the public directly, with folks talking to them in addition to the letters and the emails. But the more people that they hear from about the frustration and concern over this change, the more likely they are to go back to the drawing board and say, what can we do? And if what they can do means taking out that parking lane that they put on Cemetery for the development, no matter what they tell me, I'm sticking to that story. If they take out that lane, the driveway egress and exit are not as big an impact to the development that required the changing of the yield. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
So if they say that comes out, and then they have the sight line, and we have the lanes where where someone's turning right, because they're going to be in the right lane, regardless of whether they signal or not. If that's the solution that seems the best and it solves all 3 problems, then maybe that's what we even go in asking for. But I think it's important, at least at this point, for people to articulate to the city and put it on the city. You can copy the Walk Bridge folks for sure, but I think this needs to be dumped back on our own city, and of course the state reps too, Bob Duff and Dominique and Kadim are our state representatives as well. So
I think it's worse coming north from Gregory into that merge, now that it's only 1 lane. That's really not I mean, I know it's maybe to slow traffic down, but it's going to really back traffic up with people turning there. I mean,
It's
it's
going to
going
back
into
up.
one lane. It's already backing up. So
It's going to back up for the beach in galactic proportions.
yeah, I mean,
think that
it's
the
going to be
beach, like,
horrible. It's going to be
beach
horrible.
egress is going to be, you're going to be backed up like it's 4th of July. And but do you, Diane, remember any of the last time they tried to change the roundabout to a proper roundabout, which we were all very happy with, those of us who've not lived in Norwalk all our lives, and we're like, oh, it's a proper roundabout. Do you remember anything that or what happened that the city said, oh no, we're going to revert back to that, we can't retrain people, and we're like, no.
Right, you're talking about it at Fifth?
At 5th and the monument.
Right, yeah. I don't really. I'd have to go back and check their minutes about why they backtracked on it, which they did in a hurry. I know that a lot of it was from public outcry, but I don't know that there was anything in particular happening there where they thought then that it wasn't going to work, like anything with accidents or. I don't recall, Casey.
Accidents there on the regular, but the hope for me is that is a precedent for public outcry or whatever it was to revert it, that we could have that precedent back to the northbound Gregory, because I cannot, I'm already sitting in 5 or 6 cars back in the morning, or maybe 10 cars back in the morning if I'm going north. And once the weather gets better, and we're talking like a couple months, we're not talking, it's the first warm day, everyone heads to the beach and everyone exits.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey, Diane, I'm related. This is Jim. Any news on the opening of was it Key Food or the Rite Aid supermarket?
No, we had Anthony as our guest last month. Yeah, so he's still on target. I think now he's talking about March and April. They're still working through a couple of permit things and a small footprint change in the back where they're going to do their cold cases. But basically everything we saw is on track. He has all the equipment. He's basically ready to go as soon as he finalizes the last of the permits. And I think he said now instead of February, March, it's March, April. So it's still very close in the time. We raised with him as well. Still, we're concerned about what he's trying to work out with the city in terms of a traffic pattern there, because coming out to St. John and taking a left and then coming on East Avenue, where the city still hasn't fixed the timing of that light. That's 7 years now, even with the new technology. More than 7. It's more than 7 years. So if they don't fix that and they don't fix the timing for the bridge, it's going to be tough. But the benefit is to have that in the community with walkability and bikeability and some jobs, and maybe to come up with something with the state with parking in that lot as well, which will help, so people aren't circling around or pulling in and not being able to clear the driveway, which is going to back up traffic onto East Avenue.